So before we move on to creating a 3D model, I just want to spend this video giving you a few more tips and tricks to make your lives a bit easier when using Blender. The first thing I want to show you is the Blender camera views. If you press the numbers on your number pad, you will be able to quickly snap to different camera positions around your scene. This will allow you to be more precise in your 3D modeling. If you press 5 on the number pad, you'll enter orthographic view. Press 5 again, and you'll go back into perspective mode. Next is the Scene Previews menu. If you remember in the first tutorial, we discussed the Scene Preview modes up here. If you want to access these a bit faster, hold down the Z key to bring up the menu. This will allow you to access different previews a lot quicker. For example, if I want to go into wireframe mode, I can just hold my mouse over the wireframe, let go of the Z key, and I'm in wireframe mode. And then I can go to rendered or back to solid. Another couple of helpful tips. You can press the T key to hide and unhide the sidebar on the left here. And you can press the N key to hide and unhide the right sidebar, which gives you a few more fields to play around with, which are mostly just reflections of things we've already covered. Next is the viewport shading options, which basically just change how the meshes look in your scene. If you come up to the arrow here, you can look at all these options and just switch between whichever one you prefer. This isn't anything to do with texturing, this is purely just modeling colors. There's also an option down here called cavity. If you click this, it will make the edges appear sharper. So, before I do this, have a look at the edges here. If I turn the ridge up, you can see that the edges appear a bit sharper, so you can see a bit better what you're doing. Next up is transform snapping, which is this button here. If you press this, it will snap your transforms to a specific value. Now if I move my cube, you'll see that it snaps to a specific increment. You can also come up to the settings here. By default, move will be affected, but you can also enable rotate and scale to be affected by the snapping. So now if I rotate and scale, you can see that it is affected by the snapping tool. You can also customize to snap based on increment, vertex, or etc. Feel free to have a little play around with this to get more familiar with it. Lastly, I want to explain proportional editing to you. If I go into edit mode on this cylinder and then move a vertice, obviously only that vertice will move. But what if I wanted it to take nearby vertices for a ride too? Well, that's where proportional editing comes in. If I select this button up here, it will activate proportional editing mode. Now watch what happens when I try moving this vertice. You can see that nearby vertices are also moving with it. If you scroll on your mouse wheel, you can increase or decrease the size of the editing circle, which affects how large the proportional editing volume is. You can also choose what kind of effect you want the proportional editing to have. By default, it is on smooth, but we can change this to something like sharp. Now, if we move the vertice, you'll see that it's a bit sharper with the vertice it's grabbing. So that is it for this video. I just wanted to show you guys these things to make your work in Blender a bit more efficient. In the next video, we will be putting together everything we have learnt so far and finally create our first 3D model.